Hey gang, Shane Patrick White here, and welcome to Beyond the Process. Today I'm taking on the challenge of inking a legendary comic book artist, Arthur Adams. Now, he's known for his work on Longshot, X-Men, New Mutants, and Creature of the Black Lagoon. He's one of my personal favorites from the 80s. So, what's interesting about this project is that I've found some Batman pages to a story that was never published. And I thought I'd blow one of them up and ink it using a brush. Now, typically what Art has done in the past is he's inked with Rapidograph or Micron pens, or they've just reproduced the work from his pencils because they're that tight. So if you want to see what it would look like for Art Adams to be inked with a brush, sit back, relax, and enjoy the process. Starting off as always, I grabbed Speedball's Super Black ink and my trusty Winsor & Newton Series 7 No. 2 brush. Using my inking triangle, I set to drawing in my speed lines with a medium-size Pitt pen from Faber-Castell. Normally I do these freehand, but for this artist, I think it looks sharper. It's not too often you see Art Adams draw DC characters, so this internet find was particularly exciting to me. All total, I think there were at least 13 or 14 completed pencil pages and a couple that weren't quite finished. But first things first, I start by outlining the major shapes of the characters in the scene to establish my line weight. This also gives me a chance to think about how I'll handle other areas of this piece. Starting with the obvious and easiest areas first is generally how I roll. The level of detail that he draws in, along with his cross-hatching, create halftones that can be intimidating. If I'm not careful, I can get lost in them. That's why it's always good to have the pencil scans close by for reference. On a small piece like this, I'll spot blacks as I go. Sometimes if you have large areas of black, it can buckle the page, making it difficult to pull nice, even lines. That also depends on the quality of your paper too. 2-ply Bristol paper is the standard, but I've gone as high as 3-ply, which is very nice, and even more expensive. As an inker working on someone with such a distinct style as Art Adams, I'm doing my best to not interject too much of my own style. If he were someone who penciled looser, then of course all bets would be off. The only area that I may lend my own personal voice is closer to the area of feathering. He usually inks with a mechanical Rapidograph pen, which gives his feathering a rather dead line. It's the rhythm and the amount of feathering as well as the size that dictates this particular style. The differences between the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond when it comes to feathering is the shape, size, and length of the ink lines. You can see here in several quick examples of what I'm talking about. Now, of course, as time went on, there was a broader landscape of inking styles. Still, a minimizing and near absence of most feathering today is far more noticeable. One reason for this is that color is now explaining the volume of forms rather than black lines having to do all the heavy lifting. When digital coloring took over in the early 90s, there was a period of adjustment. That's why colorists today make more than they used to 30 plus years ago. I would have inked an entire page of Art's Batman, but I wasn't sure if I'd lose my mind doing it. So I opted to take on something relatively simpler instead. This is a great way to understand what adjustments you need to make to your own approach to inking someone without overcommitment. It also affords you the opportunity to change out tools to see if there is perhaps a better look and approach. You may notice a blue line grid underneath Art's pencils. This is how he starts his pages to lay out the correct perspective so he can gauge and check against it as he draws. Because it's in non-photo blue, it gives him the ability to make it disappear if he were to print from pencils by desaturating it and lightening the cyan color in Photoshop. Sometimes when people draw or ink snow or water splashes, they will either draw little circles or they will use whiteout and spatter it onto a page. This also depends on your approach and how much of a pain you want it to be for the colorist. Effects are an interesting problem to solve in the inks. You can go about them in a myriad of different ways. Some people use masking fluid to knock out white from a background, while others will photocopy the pencils and cut out areas to use as masks before using toothbrush splatter. Whichever approach you choose, make sure it's the right one for the job. If you're not sure, see what others have done before you and figure out how they went about doing it. That way, when you give it a shot, you'll have your own approach. Likewise, if there is no template or lightbox, print out a sample panel, 3 or 4 to a page, and try a variety of approaches until you hit on something that works. And there you have it, a single panel of Batman's story never to see print. I certainly enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. Good luck and have fun.
Thanks again for joining me today. If you found any value in this, hit the like button. Better yet, subscribe or tell a friend. Until next time, Thanks for watching.